Okay, we have our next speaker for today's Disruptive Public Education Summit. It's a tongue twister. I got it right that time.
Yes.
Super excited. We have Superintendent Rueter from Elgin ISD. And before we get into today's topic, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsors. We have Wise Pies Media, which is putting out amazing content around public education. We also have the Educational Leadership Podcast, which has over 60 episodes with school superintendents and board members around Texas. And also Ideal Impact. Ideal Impact's given hundreds of millions of dollars to public education around the great state of Texas. Zero out of pocket, recurring revenue every year. And nearly 20% of the districts in Texas are working with Ideal Impact as a funding source. So if your district needs additional funding, unrestricted funds for higher teacher salaries, or whatever your district may need, reach out to Ideal Impact, or just put a message in the chat feature and we'll connect you. We'll make an introduction. Okay, Superintendent Rueter, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking so forward to today.
Yes, so are we. So what we're going to do is we're going to hand this off to you. And we know you have a presentation you're going to run through with everyone. So if you want to mention your topic, and then you just dive right in, and we'll let you have the stage here.
You got it. All right, I'm going to rearrange some things on my screen. So, my topic, innovation and community-based district priorities, really stems from my experience that I had before I became a superintendent. A lot of the work that I did with TASA and TPAC that we've spoken about before with community-based accountability. And the way that this has evolved, especially in my role as a superintendent now in leading this work, there were some challenges that I'll just preface all this by saying the CBAS work is so powerful and so incredible. But what was lacking for me was a little bit of, how you make it actionable and how you make it where everybody understands their role in it, and how I then as superintendent, I learned really quickly that I have to be the one who makes things move forward. I have to create the conditions for success, and I have to create the conditions for the accountability throughout the entire organization for the success of community-based accountability. So I have a slideshow, and I want to share. Hang on a second. I think I did that the wrong way. Let me go here. I'm going to share my screen, then do my slideshow.
We can see it.
Great. Okay, good. And I can still see you too. Yay. All right. Perfect. Can you see it that way? It makes more of the whole screen.
Yep, that looks great.
Okay, super. All right. So since I wanted to talk about innovation, I'm a person who, as a school leader, I'm always looking for how can I put energy into the things I do? How can I put in motivation and help people feel inspired for doing the work? I think the minute we lose that, we're not those effective leaders anymore. But so what is innovation really? We know that it's crucial to the continuing success of any organization. And these are just definitions of innovation. So it can be a new idea, a method, or a device, a novelty, a change, alteration, a revolution, upheaval, transformation, unconventionality, a break with tradition, the systematic practice of developing and marketing breakthrough products and services. Or, it can also be, and we like this one, a process by which a domain, a product, or a service is renewed and brought up to date by applying new processes, introducing new techniques, or establishing successful ideas to create new value. So how do we view innovation in the field of education, and how can it be applied to the way we approach accountability? We know that there's quite the challenge in approaching accountability with excitement and energy, thinking of ways that we can be innovative. And what I've found through community-based accountability is it certainly It does insert that energy. It makes people excited again about what they're doing in the field. And we know that there are so many challenges and lots of challenges to our current accountability system in Texas and everywhere, that we want to have it be more. We want it to do more for us. Okay, hold on a second. There we go. Community-based accountability, on the other hand, relies on multiple data sources, authentic assessment opportunities, observations and feedback from stakeholders to provide evidence of progress toward the educational outcomes that the community determined are in the best interest of their children. What I've done with a community-based accountability system is I've merged it with our strategic planning process, our district improvement plan, our campus improvement plan, all of our improvement planning work that we do in our district. We have 4 priorities that we focus on, and these 4 areas should always be present when you have a true community-based accountability system. You have areas, something focusing on student success, focusing on highly effective staff, so the adults in the system, community engagement and partnerships, and then fiscal and operational systems. So I'll share more about how that works. We also say that our CBAS or ACBAS is always going to be based on beliefs developed by the community. These are not beliefs that we sat back in an office and developed. These are beliefs that we did through our Community Advisory Council last year. It was like February, March. We met twice to develop our beliefs, and we revisited our vision, mission, all of those things. The beliefs ended up being such a powerful framework for the work that we're doing in our district. There are things that before you start out on the road, on the journey for developing a CBAS, you have to have beliefs in place. So in Elgin ISD, this is what our community-based accountability group came up with. We believe that students are resilient, diverse, and empowered to succeed and become change makers. That parents, families, and community value communication and are advocates for our students, district, and community. That teachers and staff are committed to intentional student-centered growth through positive relationships with students and families to strengthen academic confidence and inspire an ongoing desire to learn. That the superintendent and central office are approachable, intentional, grounded leaders who empower and inspire the endless pursuit of district success. And that the board of trustees are student-focused and community-minded and are a unified team responsive to our diverse, growing community. And I will say, we revisit these beliefs in everything we do. We try to embed it. We have those conversations. When things get challenging, I try to lead our group and say, okay, let's go back to our beliefs. What evidence do we look for to show that we are really doing these things? And if we believe this, then what do our actions need to show? So along those lines, if we believe blank, then what will we stop and what will we start? This statement right here is something that I've used throughout the time that I've ever led community-based accountability system work. I continue using this because this is the statement that takes everything back to those beliefs, and it has to be grounded in this. So we'll revisit this in a minute. So where does innovation fit when we have district and campus improvement plans, strategic plans, targeted improvement plans, staff evaluation processes, school board agendas, budget templates, IEPs, multi-tiered system of support frameworks, curriculum managed plans, et cetera, in a school district? We're very bureaucratic. How is it that we can have really innovative processes when we know we're juggling all of these things all of the time? And I will say too, a lot of these things that when we want to have flexibility as a district, when we have the current accountability system the way it is, focused on A through F, the districts that struggle the most are the districts that have the highest percentage of poverty. And that is a fact. And when our A through F system limits us, it keeps us from having that flexibility to do more innovative things. So I set out very determined, we're about 80% free and reduced here in Elgin. Our demographic is shifting. We are an extremely fast growth district. We have already grown 400 kids since the first day of school about 2 weeks ago. We're growing like crazy. We're on the east side of Austin. Our precinct, our county precinct where we are, is the fastest growing precinct in the Austin area. So we know Austin's fast growing. We're growing even faster than most of the other parts of Austin. So we're going from a smaller district to a larger district very, very quickly. So how do we have time to build innovative processes? But what I say there is, how do we not? How do we not make the time? If we don't build the innovative processes through the work that we're doing, then we're not going to have people who want to stay in our districts. We're not going to have a culture of growth focused on student success. We are focused on, how do you develop the new ideas and methods? What about transformation? What about breakthrough, if that's what innovation is supposed to be? How can we create new value through those traditional required bureaucratic processes and systems? And I also wanted to bring in the word empowerment. Empowerment, it's one of those words like innovation. I looked up the increase in word usage for both of these words, for innovation and empowerment. We know they're buzzwords, not just in education, but also in business at this time. It's just across everywhere, all parts of our world. And the increase in these words, the usage of these words has increased at a phenomenal level over the past 10 years. But I think we lose sight of what it really is supposed to mean. We use it a little loosely at times. Empowerment, by definition, is having the knowledge, confidence, means, and ability to do things or make and execute decisions. It's about shared information, autonomy created through boundaries, replacing the old hierarchy with self-directed work teams, high expectations met by high levels of support. I always have said that, but is the word overused? I've really done a lot of self-examination with this, because I love the word empowerment. I love what it means. But then I really had to question myself, do I use this maybe without everyone really understanding what it really is supposed to mean? What does it mean in education for students? We talk about empowering our students. We talk about empowering our staff, empowering our parents, empowering our community. So we need to be careful in using this word. Do we have a clear agreement about the expectations, responsibilities, and boundaries? So I'm going to draw back to part of that, the definition part, where having the knowledge, confidence, means, and ability to do things or make and execute decisions. That is huge, because a lot of times we tend to say we're empowering someone. We're like, well, I'm empowering you to do this. I'm empowering you to lead these PLCs on the campus, with professional learning communities. But maybe the teachers really don't have the knowledge or the ability to understand how PLCs really should operate. PLCs, we think, oh, they've been around forever, years and years. But we also have lots of turnover in our practice. We have a lot of people who are new to the profession. Do we take the time to make sure that they have the knowledge about what these processes are? Because if they don't, and we let it just go without giving them the knowledge, building their confidence, providing them the means, and really helping to build their ability, then the decisions that are going to be made through that process are not going to necessarily be the best decisions for students. So looking through, this is a book study that I'm doing right now, a Quality Organizational Excellence Handbook. And I'll show you, this is the book, and I'm doing it through my work that I'm doing. It's like a huge, it's a huge book, crazy huge. And this book study that I'm doing through our Moat Casey work, I have learned so much, and I'm not very far in it, but we have webinars where we discuss a lot of the work together. And that book is really where I started questioning, I want to be careful how I'm using the term empowerment, because empowerment really is about leadership or management giving up some of the power traditionally held, which means leadership must take on new roles and responsibilities and gain new knowledge. It does not mean that leadership relinquishes all authority, totally delegates decision-making, and allows operating without accountability. It requires a significant investment of time and effort to develop mutual trust, assess and add to individuals' competencies, as well as develop clear agreements about roles, responsibilities, risk-taking, and boundaries. It is difficult to implement because it is often a major culture change and involves behavioral changes in all members of the organizational management and staff. Therefore, it is critical that the organization lay the appropriate groundwork with time-phased implementation of systems built to support it. That was the aha that I had. And I thought, oh my gosh, I've gone about doing what I would call empowerment, empowering others. I use that word a lot, and it does motivate people. It excites them. But if we don't have the proper frameworks and really make sure that people are prepared to be empowered, then we're not doing them a service. We're actually doing them a disservice, and we're creating a situation where they're much more likely to not be successful. So what I've done with the CBAS and in working through the CBAS is build in systems and processes to make sure that I'm not just turning people loose saying, you're empowered, now go forth and do, but that I really am trying to provide the structure, at the same time stay innovative. But you know, structure can be innovative, and we can still have that energy that we want to have, that we want to see throughout our district and our organization, because a lot of that does come from the leader. We know that, well, we can think of effective leaders. We've all been asked this question. Think of an effective leader that you have worked for or with in your time as, you know, in school leadership or in another area. When we think of leaders who often use the words innovation and empowerment, we probably think of a relatively charismatic leader, one who inspires and motivates others through his or her presence, words, and influence. So I know I have worked with and for some amazing leaders who I have always considered to be effective leaders, very charismatic. They always say, you know, it's not how you lead, it's like who's following you, what is your followship? And I really kind of got into this thinking about empowerment and innovation. I thought, okay, I want to be an effective leader. I want to be that charismatic leader. Also, I know that I have a lot of energy. I know that I have skill when it comes to speaking and being in front of people and trying to get large groups of people just excited about things. But am I really doing what needs to happen when it comes to action? So what about action? Can there really be innovation and empowerment without action? And when everything is only visionary, high levels of frustration and letdown are inevitable. Because I've also been in organizations where that happened. And with a really, really charismatic leader, it had great ideas, lots of vision, lots of great ideas. But when it came down to the experience of the administrators on the campuses, the administrators in departments, the teachers, the campus level staff, after a while, and it didn't take a whole lot of time, but a couple of years of lots of vision, the action really wasn't there necessarily, or people didn't see it and they weren't feeling it. Therefore, they were feeling a lot of frustration. This happens often in education, and it happens with not just superintendent leadership. It also happens with principal leadership. It could be any level of leadership. So to be truly effective leaders, we've got to ask ourselves, how are we making sure that we are providing that knowledge and the framework and the basis of what people need, the framework that they have for support to have that true level of empowerment and innovation that we're hoping for. So effective leaders, their role really should be focused on facilitating and coaching rather than monitoring and controlling. Leadership management, and I say leadership/management because we want to say leadership all the time in education, but sometimes we have management in education too. So the leadership role to employee is peer-to-peer rather than boss to subordinate. Employees and staff should be focused on their customers rather than their bosses. Some of the work that I've done recently, we did with our district leadership team retreat, through capturing kids' hearts and leadership blueprint work. But some of the work that we really had to process through, and we also did this with our team of 8 training with our board, our workshop. So if we think about primary customers, and this right here could be, it could be a presentation all into itself, but primary customers, teachers. Now we're all about kids. All of us know when people say, who are we here to serve? All of us could say kids. We know that. We know we are all about students. We're about student success. But who are our primary customers? Who are the people who are directly right there at the level that we have to support? And if we can't support them, they can't support the level that is right, that they need to be focusing on. So we see our teachers. Teachers, without a question, the primary customer is their students. We want to empower our teachers in the right way so that they can be the best for their students. Principals, their primary customers are the teachers. They still love kids. They're all about kids, but their primary customers are teachers. If they don't pay attention to the teachers and the teachers' needs, the teachers aren't going to be able to serve the students. Central office, and we are growing as a growing district. Not only are we growing kids, we're also growing positions. And it's a challenge. I have to be very careful that we're not overgrowing or hiring, but we also need the support, and it takes people for that with expertise to provide the support that's needed. And we have this conversation a lot. Central office, what is your primary, if you work at central office, as far as, directors, supervisor, specialists, coordinators, their primary customer has to be the principals on the campus. And that doesn't mean, we have issues in our district with too much communication, too many emails, too many this. So I have to think about, okay, well, that means maybe I've empowered them a little too much without the appropriate level of support and understanding of the clarity of their role. And their role is, okay, we've got to back off of some of that, and let's create a system to provide information to our principals so we're not overwhelming them to where they're frustrated because it's so much all at once if everybody's emailing them all the time. So that's just one example we've really worked on with a system to help with that. Our executive cabinet, this is my team of assistant superintendents in my district. And they must be primarily responsible to their directors and provide leadership, do that empowerment with the support that is necessary, and the central office team that they work with and lead. Of course, they support principals as well, but they have to pay attention to what their directors and central office team are doing in order to give that structure that's needed. The superintendent, my primary responsibility, I have to pay the closest attention to my executive cabinet and my principals. Those are the ones who are my primary customers. And we had this conversation even in our team of 8 training. Definitely as a school superintendent, I have to pay attention to my board and the needs of my board without a question. So there is time and attention paid to that. But when it comes to my customers, the people that I serve, in order for them to serve the people that they need to serve and provide them who I am empowering, that's my executive cabinet and the principals on the campus. And then the board to the superintendent. Through our leadership blueprint work that we did as a team of 8, we learned that if the school board isn't supporting that superintendent, all of these other areas fall through the cracks. It has to be that first, that the board has to support the superintendent, as long as the superintendent is doing his or her job and doing it the way they need to be doing it. They're there to empower that superintendent and support the superintendent. Even if the person, it's thinking about skill and empowerment. We have so much that we're still learning about that through communication and trust and building all those things that have to be in place. But it helped me to see as a superintendent that I have to focus on my executive cabinet. And when we talk about empowerment, some of the things that I believe is, I'm going to say I'm going to empower my executive cabinet. But in doing so, I am first going to see What is the evidence that I am going to accept that that person is really ready to lead everything that I'm needing them to lead, or that we're wanting to be led through them? What's the evidence that they are ready for empowerment? And it's my job to monitor that. I can still do it in a way that is motivating, and a way that can even be innovative with energy and enthusiasm. But I have to monitor. I have to pay attention to what they're doing and how they're doing it, and have conversations about that. We have weekly meetings, executive cabinet, where we talk through all of our strategic plan and our priorities and what our work is every single week. We have progress measures in place, and this is something that has to be in place for innovation and empowerment to happen. What is the evidence we will accept? And the work that we're doing in the 4 areas of student success, highly effective staff, community engagement and partnerships, and fiscal and operational systems, these are just some examples of some of the things that we have developed. We did this as a strategic team with executive cabinet, with input from principals and directors. And these are just a list of some of the things in those areas for participants to have as some of the ideas as you're building progress measures. We know that in any strategic plan, you're going to have progress measures. But in a community-based accountability system, the progress measures are very, very important. You can't just have it all be a bunch of talk and fluff. You have to have quantitative measures. You have to have lead indicators. You have to have qualitative measures. It should be so many indicators that you can point to lots of different things. That again is why I, or any of us working on CBAS, disagree that an accountability system should only be based on a test, an A through F based on a test. There's so much more to what our schools are about and what we are doing every single day in school. But you have to define those progress measures, and you have to have conversation about it. And then you have to really think about, okay, then do we just let it go? No, we have to revisit it, and we have to put systems in place so that we're not just waiting until the end of the school year and then trying to throw it all together. So our strategic work, we know that, and all of us have strategic plans. And when you think about what a strategic plan is intended to accomplish, and I've been on strategic planning teams so many times through my career, and I've led the work. And there have been times that we go through the process and we involved so many people, but it goes into a binder and it goes on a shelf somewhere, or it's sitting on a computer or whatever. We never really revisited it. So maybe, oh gosh, okay, now it's time to do state of the district. Let's talk about our strategic plan. Then you go back in there and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot we said this, or oh gosh, ooh, what can we now go dig up and find to say that we were doing this? You know, what often happens with district strategic plans, district improvement plans, and CIPs, they go on the shelf, or we visit them once a year. So to make a plan actionable, these are the things you have to have: intentionality, clear communication and feedback loops, follow through, systems and processes, and levels of internal accountability, as well as outward reporting more than once a year. If we're going to say we don't want all of our accountability to be measured by one test on one day, then we cannot only report out once a year after that STAR test and the results come out and we get a rating. We have to be intentional about building reporting systems, putting them in place where we know that we're holding ourselves accountable for sharing our success and our progress as we go. In taking vision to action, a community-based accountability system is an incredibly inspiring, motivating idea that educators, parents, and community members want to get behind. It's very easy for a CBAS to be something that is talked about and referred to. You know, you have posters on it, it's in your website, we have reports, etc. But it has to move beyond the vision, and it has to become something tangible and observable in action across the district. So there's that question. What is the evidence we will accept that we are becoming the system we want to become? How do you take it beyond a document? How do you know that it's really happening? How do you know? In our district, we have worked with Moat Casey through the strategic thought design and continuous improvement process, which was actually recommended to me by several other superintendents who had gone through it. That we had also been involved with community-based accountability systems already. And I just knew that I wanted to take it a step further. I wanted to do more with the CBAS and have more structure to it. So what this process involves is building what we call a district scorecard that will hold all players accountable. There are 4 areas of priority. You have areas of focus in student success, staff, community, fiscal and operational systems. This is the priorities are adopted by the school board. Then you have 3 to 5 strategic objectives, which are focus area goals set for each priority, again, adopted by the board up to that level. Our district scorecard has 15 strategic objectives. So all of that, when you have your priorities and strategic objectives, the beliefs, the vision and mission, all of that is adopted by the school board. That is strategic work. That's the strategic level. Then we moved into actions and developed the actions. So this is where we got the input from principals, our directors, and then the executive cabinet team is considered the tactical team, and developed up to 5 strategic actions that are set for each objective, monitored and carried out by this tactical team, administrators and staff. Those progress measures, what is the evidence we will accept? Multiple measures and data points built into the scorecard. And then you also have a column for long-term outcomes, X to Y by 2027. And I do have our district scorecard at the end of my presentation. And so when we post this presentation, you will have access to the district scorecard and what it looks like. But I wanted to kind of talk through it first and explain all the different things because it can be kind of overwhelming. There's a lot to it. So one part that I have taken, again, the district scorecard is only going to be as successful and effective as really the superintendent of schools makes it. If I remain only a vision-centered leader and talk about it and, oh, we built this amazing scorecard, here it is, here are the things, I could talk about it. But then everyone else in the organization is just talking about it too. So I want to take the vision to action, and it requires hard work and leadership follow through. We had the community-based advisory council that helped to develop our scorecard. This is the group that created those beliefs, priorities, and strategic objectives for the district. So I owe it to this group that we bring it back at least twice a year with evidence. In our district being fast growth, we're also doing bond committee work and all those things. They're telling us we're probably going to have to consider bonds about every 2 years. So that becomes part of our work as a fast growth district. And we've learned that fast growth really does kind of overlay every single part, all of our priorities for sure. But a lot of my same folks from community-based advisory council are going to be serving on our citizen bond committee, so they will understand how it overlays. It is a priority to me for us to embed the priorities and strategic actions into all district and campus work. Our campuses create a cascaded scorecard, which looks like the district one, but they add a column for campus actions, and they develop a campus action for every district level action. So here's the district action. What are you going to be doing on your campus to ensure that this happens? The superintendent holds one-on-one strategic conversation meetings with executive cabinet once per 2 weeks, and then campus principals once a week with campus walks. So I started that this year. That was really based on feedback that I got. I'm a very visible superintendent. I am out and about a lot. But what I found was if it wasn't calendared, I know everybody knows this. If it's not calendared and scheduled, and I'm not extremely intentional about it, it's so easy for something else to get scheduled on top of. It's so easy for something else to take precedence or priority. So I've had to have conversations with my and after my first year, I can do this a little more easily, but conversations with my executive cabinet, and I have an amazing assistant also who helps me with this. She completely manages my calendar, which helps. That when I'm scheduled for one-on-ones on a campus, that's my priority at that time. If I happen to be out of the district or have something that I'm having to do, I let that principal know, and they have the option. We can either reschedule or we'll pick it back up the next week. And it's funny, we all know how quickly a week can go by, but already just since school started, doing these one-on-one strategic conversation meetings with the principals has been incredible. I tell them, okay, talk to me about the lead indicators you're using to measure your level of progress in this priority area. So show me evidence of your lead indicators. And it really has opened up some really great conversation. It takes that intentionality level really to the next level. When we talk about things like, and we can talk about things like innovation. Where are we seeing creativity from our learner profile? What evidence do you see that our students are using their social contracts in the classroom? And so those are lead indicators. I can go around, and that principal already knows all of the classrooms that have their social contracts in place, that they're using them. Those are all lead indicators. So that's what our walks are based on. We do 30 minutes of conversation based on their scorecard, and then we do 30 minutes of walks on the campus, and we go into classrooms, we're in hallways, and we're observing and having conversation. And then we've started something called signaling, which is what you do also with a community-based accountability system, is you're signaling using color codes to help signal areas of concern for your campus or for your district. Not just areas of concern, but also areas that you feel that you're doing really well in. So executive cabinet team and principals indicate their level of progress and or their need through signaling. So they'll take their scorecard and they go through each of their actions, and they use green for something that is in place, it's moving along well, they have good systems, and it's rocking along. That is maintaining. It doesn't come off the scorecard. It's just maintaining, and that's great. But you know that still needs to be in place for that priority to move forward. Yellow highlight indicates something they're implementing or that they're refining. And orange is something that indicates critical need in this area. And in my conversations with the principals, they have some green, some yellow, and some orange. Right now, more yellow than anything, some orange, and some green. Probably the least orange, which is good, because too much orange would indicate you're not going to be able to focus on all of those things. But what orange means, we've had to just have a lot of conversation around that. And I also tell them it should be indicated orange. You signal orange and I call it bold orange or screaming orange. If it's really bold orange, you're saying this is beyond my level of control and I am in triage mode. I need immediate district level help and daily follow through until this is resolved. And that is a bold statement for principals to make, or for directors to make, or executive directors to make to the superintendent. That takes trust. They've got to know I'm not going to hold that against them or anyone else. It's just indicating to me that I need to start asking some questions. One of our schools, we've had AC issues since the first day of school, and the principal has taken it, she's gotten support, they've been supportive, but maybe that communication could just have been better in that particular area, because sometimes she just didn't know what was happening with it. And of course, that's impacting instruction when it's 105 degrees outside. And she was finding that she was really experiencing some frustration with that. And her teachers, because the teachers were coming to her going, what are you doing about this? Well, we've decided to put something in place to say if it's a bold orange issue, I expect daily personal follow-up with that principal from the district level director, as well as a daily report to me from the cabinet level executive director until resolved. We need to do what we say we're going to do and hold each other accountable. And I'm committed to doing that. We have what's called a clear communication protocol matrix, and we're using it for principals to indicate their questions, issues, and concerns that have gone unresolved. So we review that in cabinet every week. We discuss it, and I assign an owner to it on executive cabinet. Orange items live there so that we know if that's something they're signaling they need additional assistance from district level, then we know that that campus may need it, because not every campus has the same needs, right? I mean, we have dual language at our elementary schools, but one campus it's going really well, another campus it's not, because we had a teacher quit after school started. I mean, that's just an example that's going to be orange for them and they need help. So that becomes a signal for us. And I don't want to wait until semester or end of year to find out that that's been an issue all year. And that can sometimes happen at the superintendent level, as we all know. So this is my way of providing some structure for follow-up and expectation so that I can keep a really good finger on the pulse of what's happening in my district and also empower people to help solve these problems. Then we have what I call reporting out. And that reporting out is very important. And when we know we're being held accountable for this reporting out, we're a lot more likely to follow through with our intentionality and our processes. So we are starting in September monthly reports to our school board aligned to the district scorecard, one priority per month. It cycles throughout the year, and this happens to align with a report that we're going to have on this month. We're having on the number of students that we have under student success for this month. What are some indicators and the evidence that we're showing progress in this area? Well, I'm going to have our directors talk about how many students are engaged in athletics, how many students are engaged in fine arts, how many students are engaged in other activities, also talking about our college career military readiness. So we think forward about board meetings and look at an entire year at a glance. What month is it that we're going to be reporting out for each priority? So each priority gets reported out at least twice a year during a school board meeting. Weekly board updates that I send as superintendent, I send a weekly update on Friday, and I align it and organize it by priorities. So we also use it to help prepare for upcoming board agendas through that update. I have promised my board no surprises. I'm not going to bring something to them for action, whether it be consent or a regular action item, that I haven't really given them so much information on. Preferably the month before, we maybe had a presentation about it or maybe had a workshop on it, but we have lots of information. So this is where I empower my executive cabinet they go in, we do it through a Google Doc, and they're expected to add something under their area of priority, according to the scorecard, something that's happened over the past week in their area. It has really helped to help our board align it to district priorities. And we talk in that way through the priorities of, is it student success? What can we show in the area of highly effective staff, in the area of community engagement and partnerships, in the area of fiscal and operational systems. And we have something every week that we can talk about. It makes us look for things to affirm as well, or we highlight areas of need. Okay. We have board workshops. I've had that's where, of course, we do our team of 8 training and all of that. But this next, in a couple of weeks, we're having a board workshop to have my board signal their understanding of the district scorecard as it's written, as well as to gather their feedback. Give me input on strengths, opportunities for improvement, and need for clarity. Executive cabinet will be in there during this time. They're each going to present on an area, on a priority area, and talk about the strategic actions that they are working on and what are their lead indicators, the evidence that they are going to accept that we're moving forward and making progress in this area. This is I think there's a lot of vulnerability that goes with that. And honestly, I haven't done it yet. And so it's kind of, there's apprehension there, but excitement, because I know I have so much to share with them that we've already been doing. It's amazing. Just through my one-on-ones that I've been having and walking campuses and talking to departments. But this is their opportunity at this time, at the beginning of the school year, to ask the questions and see what kind of refinements we might want to add. If it's something they really want to see more information on, then we need to add it to our scorecard somewhere where it fits. I do a weekly superintendent message to the entire staff. This was a need also indicated in feedback loops. I didn't do that last year, but I'm doing it this year, and I love it. I'm reporting out on evidence I've seen through my walks in the district, as well as from reports I received from principals and cabinet. And I also have added personal connection in there. I talk about something we did as a family. They know about my kids, they know about my dogs, they know some of the fun stuff we did, some of the things that we're planning on doing. And I've just had so much, when I am out on campuses and walking around, people actually thank me. They're like, thank you so much. That is such an inspiring message. And thank you for taking the time to do that. I give them a launch with a motivational excerpt from a book, something that I read. I've done innovating some of George Cours's things, Brene Brown, and I find something that connects with my tie into the focus of that week. And then I highlight evidence, things that I've seen around the district, and highlight different groups and where I see empowerment, where I see innovation, and try to help highlight those things so that they know I'm paying attention. And that has been a really good thing that has happened. And then I always, of course, share that with my board as well. So really kind of wrapping it up and going to leave some time for questions and conversation. I came up with this belief statement, not just for this presentation, but this is just the work there where I am right now. If we believe we will inspire and empower our teams to ensure district processes that support student success, then we will stop being reactive and start holding ourselves and others accountable to clear agreements about our expectations. My innovation as a superintendent is really through finding different ways to do this work. And I feel like I have to be innovative. Our kids deserve it. Our kids deserve leaders who are willing to take risks, and innovation it's risk taking, and risk taking isn't easy because we're afraid we're going to fail. But we have to have a culture, and that we build a culture of supporting and to say, I'm going to support you in this. I want you to take risks. I am trying to build a culture of risk taking and innovation with my principals, who then are building it with their teachers, their primary customers, who then are building it with their students. And if we believe that we want to have a culture of that throughout our district, then we have to pull together and build these frameworks and hold ourselves and others accountable for moving all this forward and seeing the kind of evidence that we will accept that we're going to become the system we want to become. So I also shared, this is the district scorecard, Elgin ISD strategic plan, which is also our district scorecard. We're a district of innovation. Therefore, this is what we use as our district improvement plan. Also, it's our strategic plan and our district improvement plan. It's our campus improvement plan, because our campuses have added a column of key strategic action. They keep everything on here. They don't change any of this, but they add a column in there for campus strategic actions. And so you're able to see there are belief statements at the top, our mission, our vision, core values. Then there are priorities, the strategic objectives, the actions, progress measures, and our long-term outcomes. So the priority areas of student success, then the pink is professional learning and highly effective staff. We added professional learning in there to highlight that. Community engagement and partnerships, and then fiscal and operational systems. So, and it's a living document. It is something that doesn't have an end to it. We meet as when I do my one-on-ones with cabinet, I'm collecting their input and I'm saying, what do you see as lacking? And are there things that we need to change in the strategic actions or in the progress measures? And already there are some things that we know that we need to refine a little, because in an action, when it's happening, we're seeing that, okay, we need to tweak this a bit. So we'll tweak it every 9 weeks and report out to the board and share that with them. And when I say tweaking, it may just be that maybe there's a key strategic action that's really missing that needs to be reflected here. Or maybe there's a progress measure that they want to include and they want to add it. So again, it's just a document that flows. And I think just the whole process is pretty innovative. I'm proud of the work, and I am finding so much joy. And I love my job, and I love this district. I love the people I'm with. And I just love that we have these systems put in place to make sure that we are doing what we need to be doing. So I'm going to turn off my screen.
I have a million things to say, but one is that
Okay.
well, I always wish we had more time with you. We have to get you back on the podcast again, and I'm so glad to have you in this time. That balanced scorecard means so much to me because I went through that with my district before I got off the board with Moat Casey. So everything you're saying, systems and putting things on paper is so important.
Yeah.
One of the last screens you shared, so I have all these notes, but I'm going to hurry up and try to get something out because I want to make sure if there's questions, we get to those also. But I want to say this: clear agreements about our expectations. It's hard to argue with that when you put that out there. Like you're saying you're going to have clear agreements, and then something else that I took a picture of this. I can't wait for you to share your slides so I can go back and look at it. I love the word empowerment, but if you don't give people a framework for that, it's just an idea.
That's right.
And the word empowerment can be, well, first, like even the word leadership. I was talking to students leadership on my campus about that. And sometimes people don't even like that word because like, well, I don't see myself as a leader. So certainly a leader or anyone that's working with students can maybe sometimes feel like empowered for what? Like I'm struggling in this space. So I'm like mind blown that you have a framework for empowerment. So
thanks.
Yeah.
Yes, the level of detail in the scorecard and just that communication model is just, I mean, it's for those listening in, wow, there's so many nuggets to take home from that and apply to your district. I think that's amazing.
Well, and I'll say this, so because I know our people that are listening, you might not be able to see, you can't see the screen yet, and so when we're talking about empowerment, and her slide said having the knowledge, confidence, means, and ability to do things or make and execute decisions. I mean, I think just having a shared set of words for what empowerment means is also important. Like, so like what Gary is saying, you're putting some detail behind these maybe big, I don't know if elusive is the right word, but I love it.
Yeah. I think we use it so loosely, I'm guilty of that. I was guilty of that before I really started thinking I am going to make sure that when I'm really empowering, I'm doing that by providing the structure that should be there and giving them the knowledge that they need to have that ability and the skill and not just assume they have it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. And then you also say replacing old hierarchy with self-directed work teams. I mean, I think that's like giving a space and place for what might have worked. Okay, great, that worked for a long time, but now we're going, and we need to keep being innovative and move ahead. And so, like, just acknowledging that I think is really important. Also, and I love that you're asking if the word's overused. I mean, like, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this slide. Especially since my dissertation covers women in leadership, I'm like, oh man, have I missed some things that I need to go back and add? Yeah. So I want to say one more thing, Gary. I'm sorry. Like, sometimes he doesn't have a chance. Like, I'm gonna just take the time. No, I'm just kidding. I love that you mentioned the personal connections and saying things like, we are people doing this job.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we get, as leaders, we're trying to protect. I mean, I try to protect my family in ways, but at the end of the day, you can look us up, you can find things out. We might as well talk about our job. We might as well say that we've got a kid. I have one that's about to have a baby, my first granddaughter. Yeah. I told Gary, if I get the call, I'm out. Like, we'll be right in the middle of a presentation and I'm out.
That's right.
You know? And we have to model that also. We as leaders have to model, what does it look like to be very personal and very powerful, very intentional, very kind. So I just all over this. So thankful. But, all right, Gary, go ahead. Their question.
No. You mentioned getting in touch, with Superintendent Rueter. What would be the best route to do that? If any of our listeners have questions about your presentation.
And I actually put a slide on with all of my information and I know it's not Twitter anymore, Twitter handle, X thing, whatever, but my phone number, I even gave my cell phone number because they could text me and tell me, hey, I need to talk to you about this and give me a call. I believe that we're all here to help share information and just help each other to be better and stronger. And I'm really inspired by hearing from other people. So it's the last slide in that presentation. And so however I'm going to share that presentation, do I just need to send it to you, Gary?
Yeah, that'll work. We'll also have the recorded version
Great.
so they'll be able to see that. We will have the audio on our podcast. So if you do want to share your email or phone number, whatever's easier right now, we can make sure that's
maybe just say your email now. That way, if people are listening, they can write it down, their email.
Yeah. Oh, and here's there.
There we go.
Great.
So Jana.Rueter@elginisd.net. And it's Jana Rueter @Jana Rueter for X. And then there's my mobile number and my office number.
Wonderful.
Got
yeah.
it. JANA.Rueter@ELGINISD.net.
Yes. Thank you for spelling that, because I know that my name is easily misspelled. It's not spelled the way it sounds.
Yeah. Well, it's such an amazing presentation you did with all of the detail and the scorecard and the context and the communication. Like, everything about it was just it was very well done. And I'm sure everyone listening in will be able to appreciate that as well. So just so many amazing topics today and speakers, and we're just so grateful to have you do your presentation with us today. And for those of y'all that are listening in, well, if you're listening in, you've already found the summit. So it's in a lot of locations, though. If you want to listen to somewhere else, we're on the YouTube channel, the podcast channel, WisePod Media site. And if you're here live, that's awesome.
Well, and you know what? I just want to wish you luck. I have 400 students in this new semester. I mean, I'm at a university where that's happening also, and it's wonderful. But it's growing pains. Our students are trying to find places to eat on campus, and it's wonderful to have that, and then to be like extreme fast growth. So I'm excited for what you're doing. You're definitely someone I look up to, and our guests and our listeners and future superintendents. If you are listening and want to be a superintendent, this is the person you want to look to. And she gave you her cell phone number. So,
I am here. We need good people, and we need people who are really, you have to have so much commitment and dedication to it, but gosh, it's rewarding. I
Mhm.
love my job. I love doing what I do. It's not without challenges. We all know that,
Mhm.
but we need people who are resilient and have vision and can still provide, provide that support how they need to. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, always an honor. It's such a delight, and I took a few screenshots because I'm like, I want to. I'm gonna go back to this tonight when we're done with work, and I want to like make sure. And so I appreciate your all the detail that you put into this. It's very helpful. So thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you so much.
You bet. Thank y'all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.